Hugs and tears as two former police officers are found not guilty in the beating death of Kelly Thomas. Good afternoon. I'm Chuck Henry.
And I'm Colleen Williams. We were in the courtroom this afternoon as those not guilty verdicts came down just about 1 hour ago and only one full day into jury deliberations. An emotional end to a case we've been following now for more than 2 years. NBC4's Vicki Vargas live at the courthouse in Santa Ana. Vicki has been on this from the very beginning. Vicki.
You know, Colleen, it was interesting. It was tense. It was difficult for everyone involved in the courtroom. Before we went inside, Ron Thomas was the first to say he had a, quote, bad feeling about what here. His wife, former wife rather, was inside the courtroom next to him. She grabbed for a box of Kleenex. She then held hands with a representative from the district attorney's office as if they knew what was coming. And then there were many tears, a lot of emotion as the clerk read the verdict and announced that they were not guilty on all 4 counts of the former officers.
Despite the fact that he's my son, I've never in my life seen something this bad happen to a human being. And then to have it happen by on-duty police scot-free. So what this means is all of us need to be very afraid now. It's carte blanche for police officers everywhere. Can beat us, kill us, whatever they want, because it has been proven right here today
that they'll get away with it.
They'll get away with it.
They got away with murdering my son. It's just not fair, so I guess it's legal to go out and kill now.
What the prosecution referred to as its best evidence, that video which showed this beating, did not convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt that the officers had gone above and beyond their scope of duties. What became clear in the part of the defense was that this was, in their words, department policy, that it was to a T as far as what these officers had been trained to do, and that Kelly Thomas was a suspect, someone they were trying to detain, quote, not beat. Again, the officers initially, one of them pounding his hand on the defense table, relieved that he would now not be facing 4 years behind bars. That was Jay Cicinelli. The other former officer, Manuel Ramos, waited for the jury to leave. He then leaned over and hugged his defense attorney. Now, there was a lot of security in that courtroom, at least a dozen bailiffs. Everyone involved was then let out in back doors. We did hear, as you saw, from Kelly Thomas's parents. We also heard from the prosecution, and they made a very surprising announcement regarding the third officer whose trial is about to begin. We will tell you more about what this verdict has as far as an effect on that particular case and have more reaction coming up at 6 o'clock. Live in Santa Ana, I'm Vicki Vargas, NBC4 News.
This is the surveillance video. It was a violent beating that ended with a homeless man dead 5 days later. This is what it looked like in court today. 2 former Fullerton police officers acquitted on all charges in the death of Kelly Thomas. Now, we first brought you the verdict at 4 o'clock this afternoon when it was read in court. We're going to go back live to Vicki Vargas in Santa Ana. She has reaction from both sides in this very emotional case. Vicki.
And that it was, Colleen. There was a lot of tension in that courtroom leading up to the moment when the clerk finally read those verdicts. But the 2 words we heard from the officer's lawyer tonight, relieved and thankful. He is describing their reaction. These are officers who literally broke down as those verdicts were read. There was a loud bang on the defense table, which you might be able to hear on the video, just at the moment as Jay Cicinelli was acquitted of both involuntary manslaughter and use of excessive force. The jury delivered the same not guilty verdicts for Manuel Ramos, who was facing 15 years to life in prison. Instead, it appears the jury agreed with the defense that both officers were doing what they were trained to do. Lawyers telling us that there was no malice involved, that they were simply detaining a suspect. Now, prosecutors have said it was the officers' actions that led to Kelly Thomas's death, a homeless, mentally ill man accused of initially breaking into cars at the Fullerton Transportation Center. There was mail found in a backpack. Initially, they thought it had been stolen. They claimed Kelly Thomas tried to run away and that at one point he actually tried to take a taser gun.
These peace officers were doing their jobs. They were operating as they were trained, and they had no malice in their hearts. They were not out to get somebody that night. They were working.
Despite the fact that he's my son, I've never in my life seen something this bad happen to a human being. and then to have it happen by on-duty police officers, and then they walk scot-free.
We had a fair trial. We gave the jury all of the evidence, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to try to do that again.
Tony Rakoc was referring to the case yet pending against Joe Wolf, the third officer. He will not be charged any further. That case is being dropped. That was the news, perhaps, of the day. And looking back, this is now the end of the case that began 2.5 years ago. The jury deliberating just about 8 hours over 2 days. Live in Santa Ana, I'm Vicki Vargas, NBC4 News.